5th Massachusetts Regiment. These would have been the Massachusetts troops that would have been probably either across the street or to the east of us here beyond the wood line. You could tell from Massachusetts because if you look at the buttons, see there's a VMAS on it.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
So we've actually gotten to the point of trying to standardize our uniforms at this point. Also, the colors of the coat denote that I'm from New England, so it's a blue coat with white facings. All New England troops are wearing these colors at this time. By the latter part of the encampment, Washington wants everybody wearing the same uniform, blue-faced red, but the problem is there's not enough red cloth to go around, so we really don't get those new uniforms, which become our first really kind of national United States Army uniforms, until probably about April of '83, so towards the end of the encampment. The musket that I'm carrying is a model 1766 Charleville musket. It's a 69 caliber smoothbore. Along with the uniform, the equipment would have come over from France, so we would have had about 10,000 uniforms and 100,000 muskets given to us from foreign aid. It's a smoothbore weapon, which means it's not terribly accurate. If there was somebody over by that monument there, which is about maybe 30, 40 yards away, I probably would miss them from this distance. Maximum effective hitting range, you're looking at probably 15 to 20 yards. I could hit something accurately. I could hit anything up to 250 yards. I just don't know what. So really, these weapons favor them being used en masse, kind of like a giant shotgun, basically spreading out large pieces of lead over across a very wide area. And especially since you're going to be together with other people in a big cluster, that maximizes your firing power. The other people are going to be that way too. So
everybody's shooting at once, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Generally, they normally would actually fire by groups of 100 men called a company. So you have somebody always loaded, and as opposed to just one giant boom, like what you see in the movies, which is very impressive, but not very accurate, and also not very. And when you think about it, it's not a really good strategy, because once you all fire all at once, everybody's unloaded. And
then you all got to stop and load.
And you all got to stop and reload again. So it's important that you have somebody always loaded, so it keeps the pressure on the opposing forces, and it kind of flusters them. You just have this rolling fire. This is also called a flintlock. A lot of people call it a flintlock musket. It's called a flintlock because it's comprised of 3 main components. I'm sorry, this is pretty rusty. It's been sitting in a undehumidified room, so it gets rusty pretty fast. Again, one of the things you would actually see soldiers doing here more often than not would be actually cleaning these, so I gotta get to that. But we have the cock here, which holds the flint, which is a sharp rock, and then or stone. We have here the hammer, which is a piece of steel, which opens, when you flip it open, opens to the pan, which is where I put my priming charge. So each cartridge box that I have has 29 to 32 rounds. And each round has a lead musket ball, 3 to 4 pieces of buckshot, and then the black powder on top, which would have been the priming charge and in the main charge too. So the priming charge would go in here. I shut it obviously so it doesn't fall out. I pour a remaining charge down the barrel with the musket ball, take out the ramrod, and I ram that down to make sure that it's not going to roll out. Also compresses it so that it will be towards the bottom of the barrel. When I bring this from half cock to full cock and I take it off safety, I pull the trigger, the flint strikes the steel. At the same time, the sparks ignite the powder in the pan. The powder in the pan explosion goes through a small hole drilled in the barrel called the vent hole, and that sets off the main charge. So you wouldn't obviously be using these if it was raining or if it was snowing outside. So it's kind of, again, warfare back in the 18th century is very seasonal. Depending on where you were in the country, and depending on the weather, it was either a good day or a bad day for a battle. There was actually one famous battle called the Battle of the Clouds in 1777 during the Philadelphia campaign, where the Americans and the British were basically slugging it out while there was a incoming thunderstorm, and they basically wanted to finish everything before that happened. So it turned out to be a draw, because both sides ended up quitting the field right before it started to rain, and that was because of the unreliability of these weapons in bad weather. So, do you guys have any questions before I actually fire this off?
No.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple of steps over here. I'm firing a blank charge. That said, it's pretty loud. It's also a real firearm. It can't fire live, so I'd rather be safe than sorry. You have to imagine about 800 to 1,000 of me lined up shoulder to shoulder in 2 ranks. Normally there would be 1 rank of soldiers right here, 1 line of soldiers, then behind me probably would have been another rank of soldiers, behind them would have been the NCOs and the officers, usually coming at the position of shoulder arm. So this is where, again, when you fell in at attention or you're going into battle, this is the position you're always at. Because everything that you do starts from here. The first command given will be to prime and blow. Bring the musket up to the chest, cartridge box, blow the cartridge, tie it up. There's my priming charge.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Take ready. Take aim. Fire. And I'm ready to reload again. Now normally, yeah, I'm not a professional soldier, but back in the period, if I'm doing the drill every single day, I could do this about 3 to 4 times a minute. So once every 15 to 20 seconds. And once you have that rolling fire, the other side, if they're unable to keep up, either because they're green troops or, you know, they're so overwhelmed, you're going to want to about face and retreat. That's when you take out the bayonet, which is the 18-inch long blade at the end of the musket. And what that does is basically it's more meant to instill fear in the enemy more often than not. But that said, it does come in handy if you're going to be, if they're a little bit more stubborn and you have to do some hand-to-hand fighting.
Yeah, for close combat, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go.
But ideally, the bayonet charge was very well organized, as opposed to just kind of like firing the musket. Because if you're the first guy over there to the opposing side, the enemy's not going to be very happy to see you, no matter how demoralized they are. You're going to turn out more like a zero than a hero. So the bayonet charge started off at the shoulder. Again, I'd have my line of soldiers here, and then I would be told to advance or to the front march. I'd step off. I'm starting at about 75 steps a minute, so that's your common time. As you get closer, you pick it up to about 120 steps a minute, so I'm doubling my speed. And I charge bayonets all together. And what that does is it's meant to instill fear. Also, you're going to punch through that line like a fist. So it's important that you're there with other people, because the more people you have on your side going in one direction at the same time, the more likely the other people, the enemy's just going to fall apart and break and run. So really, if you're able to fire those 3 rounds a minute and then break the line with the bayonet charge, you win the day. And that's really how battles back then were fought. It was all about the technology they were using and being able to maximize its effectiveness to win the day. So, you guys have questions or?